Internet, it's one of my favorite times of the year because I love movies and I love lists, and at the end of the year, it is a good time to rank our favorite movies of the year. Now, this is by favorite. This is not best. Art is subjective. This was my personal experience with these films. Now, 2022, I consider a pretty stacked year in movies. I would say my top 4 would all be number 1 any other year, if not for my number 1. It was very hard to narrow down 2, 3, 4, and even 5, and this top 10 was very stacked. I really appreciated each and every one of these films. Now, I did make a top 40. If you want to see that, that is over on Instagram and Letterboxd, and I might post it on Twitter. Top 23 is on this very page. I did have to do a top 23 of 2022 because I enjoyed way too many. I saw 190 movies this year, so if you want to see 11 through 23, that is part 1 on this very page. This is part 2, which is my top 10, because year after year, people are like, why'd you make so many? This is a top 10 just for you people. If you want to see a top 10, this is it right here. But please, in the comments, let me know what your favorite movies were, what your experience of this year at cinema was. I want to hear in the comments which ones you agree with, which ones you don't. Please do like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow this very page to about 20K is the goal by spring, so let's get it there. I'm at like 16.2. Let's get it to 20 as we get into St. Patty's Day, that era. All right, without further ado, let's get into the top 10 movies of 2022. All right, my number 10 is going to be The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. If you know me, if you know this channel, you know I am a fan of meta comedy, meta humor, meta awareness, meta drama. I love commentary on commentary. I think art is very fun to look at through a mirror. I think it's very interesting to look at yourself. And I think when meta awareness is done right, it is super interesting. And I think The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent showed me new ways to really play with meta awareness. I knew I'd enjoy a movie where Nicolas Cage played Nicolas Cage. I didn't expect the depths of it or the heart within it to be quite that palpable. I was more emotionally invested in fictionalized, non-fiction Nick Cage than I expected to be, and I was also more invested in the story itself. It told a good story, and Pedro Pascal somehow stole a movie from Nick Cage in a Nick Cage movie. This movie had so many great performances. It was so well written. It was so self-aware to like a fifth wall level. The fourth wall was broken long ago. This was fifth wall stuff. So yeah, I really appreciated it. I was also surprised by it in ways I didn't expect. I don't want to give anything away. Check out The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. It is unique in itself, and I really appreciate it. My number 9 of 2022 is a maximalist masterpiece. It is Elvis. I had a really special time with this one. It took me a couple minutes to get into it. I wasn't in love with Tom Hanks's take at first, but then I understood why it had to be so big and so bold. I also don't know the original guy. Maybe that was spot on, but it took me a couple minutes. But once I was into this movie, I was so into this movie. Top 9 is very high in a year of 190 movies, because what it was able to do was make a larger-than-life figure even larger. I love maximalism. I love aggressive stimuli, and this movie was so much coming at you at once. And Baz Luhrmann is hit or miss for me. I like Moulin Rouge. I like Romeo and Juliet. I don't love everything he's done, but when it works, it really works, and he was the exact right person to make this fictionalized take on Elvis. I also like that it gave some of his influences that strongly influenced Elvis music some time in the light. It gave me some new artists to listen to. It acknowledged some of the artists that really inspired Elvis, and it didn't shy away from some of the controversy. Obviously, if you make a drama of Elvis, it's going to go to the darker past, but it didn't ignore them. It just gave you a spectacle. This felt like the circus. It felt like the world of entertainment, and this year in the movies, I really noticed a through line of the art I enjoyed was artists. It was looking at artists. It was looking at sharing your soul. It was looking at the cost of sharing your soul. It was looking at legacy. It's looking at aging, and all those things are really well done here in a way that feels almost like a live-action cartoon. This movie is a soundtrack I listen to all the time now. This is a movie that showed me new artists to listen to, of old artists, and it really was everything I didn't know I wanted in an Elvis movie. And I always liked Elvis, but now I can see more, even though this is fictionalized, of the man. And it's such a special, special experience. Coming in at number 8, and my only Marvel movie on the list, is going to be Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. It's funny, this and number 7 danced all year. Well, once it came out in November, but this and number 7 have danced since November. I'm excited to get to that one. But Wakanda Forever is about loss Wakanda Forever is about remorse. Wakanda Forever is about recovering and mourning and taking that time. And I thought it masterfully handled that in the blockbuster genre. It is not easy to make a blockbuster that isn't happy. It is not easy to make a blockbuster that isn't pure spectacle. Like, I love when there's undercurrents, especially in the Marvel movies. I love when they're able to tell I always say that comic movies are a Trojan horse for morality, just like comic books are. And this one wasn't just morality, it was about real life experiences, because we all in that theater mourned not only the character of T'Challa, but the actor of Chadwick Boseman. Not a lot of us knew Chadwick from the audience side as compared to the creators, but those creators were mourning publicly with us, and we all had our own take on what Chadwick Boseman was to us. And all the people that got mad about people, the parasocial relationships are hard and tricky, and there is a lot of messiness. But I think the way they handled it was they walked a very fine line between a parasocial relationship and what our experience of Chadwick/T'Challa was. It doesn't matter if you've met the man or not, how that person impacts your life, whether it's fictional in T'Challa or nonfiction in Chadwick Boseman, is a state of mourning. We aren't going to get to experience Chadwick Boseman's T'Challa again, and we got closure, which is so unique and so special. And the way it was handled with those incredible sound design choices of silence, with those beautiful images that will have us experience mourning, like I said, along with the crew members that did get to know him. It's so unique for a Marvel film, and I really appreciate it showing what these movies can be. Not everything worked for me, that's why it's not higher, but so much worked for me, and then it elevated even higher into the top 10 because of how unique it is and how bold it is and how one of one Wakanda Forever is. I think it is the best Marvel movie of 2022, and I also think it's one of the most unique Marvel films in the entire MCU because of what it had to do, and I think it did a really beautiful, dutiful job honoring the great Chadwick Boseman. Number 7, now this is a tricky jump, man. It's also Forever, but it's Jackass Forever. My number 7 is Jackass Forever because I grew up with these guys, and like I said, with Elvis, aging and legacy and those important elements really are the theme of this film in such a unique way, and the maturation of these guys while being immature fascinates me. I loved Jackass growing up. I didn't think I would love it as much as an adult. I thought it was a piece of my youth, and then watching these guys mature while staying childlike was so special. I think the difference between being childish and childlike is one of the most important things you can do. If you can keep a sense of childlike wonder without being childish, you've achieved a great life, and these guys have done it. Now, yes, they are often childish, but what they've done by maturing and what they've done representing all sorts of people in ways you wouldn't expect, what communities they've embraced, and which groups of people now identify with these guys. And I love that this is a MTV program that when I saw these guys at the movie, I felt like they were my friends, but like people I've lived with forever. I don't get into this shit anymore that I did when I was a kid. Everyone did stupid Jackass stuff, or a lot of people did when they were young. I don't anymore, but I still felt like I'd known these guys forever because we have. This was, I think, up there with one of my top 3 as far as legacy sequels of all time. I did not expect 10 years later for the hijinks of Jackass to be so impactful. This was one of my favorite experiences at the movies. I saw it twice in the theater, once at home, and every time belly laughing, full experience. Movies are whatever elicits an experience from you, right? Art is what makes you feel something, and I felt so much. Nostalgia, joy, glee, confusion, being repulsed. I was so emotional during Jackass. Didn't expect it. Number 7, Jackass Forever. Number 6, and maybe the highest a horror movie has made it into my list in years. I'm not usually a horror movie guy. This transcends the genre for me. Number 6 is The Black Phone. The Black Phone is what I want out of horror movies. I think that torture porn isn't for me. I think blood and guts for blood and guts sake isn't for me. But I think when you can be so impactful in your characterization so quickly that you care about every decision a character makes, the horror becomes so much more real. I felt like I knew these kids. I felt like I was back in the 70s. I felt like I was invested in the small town. I felt like the choices were logical. I felt like the writing was tight and impactful. I felt like the directing was masterful because every angle had me further leaning forward but leaning back. It was like a rocking chair of emotion. I wanted in, but I didn't want to be there. And that's what I want from horror. I didn't feel like any of the dumb tropes were there, but all of the smart tropes were there. This is a masterclass in horror for me. I really didn't expect this movie to be, it's number 6, it's in my top 6, but I didn't expect it to be what Scream was for me in the 2000s. And it did it without the meta-ness. It did it with just pure storytelling. This is the Goonies of horror movies. I was enamored and terrified, and the performances are amazing. These newcomers are going to be huge. If these giant like blockbusters know what's good for them, they've already cast all these people, these young kids that are in this movie. Ethan Hawke delivers a hell of a performance. The production design, the world is so beautiful, and it's terrifying, and I loved it. All right, number 5, sticking to legacy, sticking to aging, sticking to so much connection to character. We've got Clerks 3. In another year, this could be number 1, but this year was stacked. Number 5 is the legacy sequel, maybe, of my life, next to number 2. Number 2 and number 5 are really interesting. But I grew up with the View Askew films. Brody is the one that taught me I could talk about comic books. And then Kevin Smith, the man himself, with Evening with Kevin Smith, showed me a path to what my life could be. And I'm chipping away at making it, that is what I do now. So View Askew has always meant the world to me. And the Clerks film was the art house film that allowed Mallrats to happen. I was always more attached to Mallrats while giving, respect and revelry to Clerks. I just identified with Mallrats more. I've never worked at a convenience store, but I know so many people that have, and how much that means to them. But Dante and Randall, Randall's the blueprint for Brody, and I see that. Every time I watch a Clerks film, it's about 4 years ahead of me. When Clerks 2 came out, I was younger than those guys, but I always saw what was to come, and I always identified with them. Clerks 3 is no different. Clerks 3 is a very intense commentary on not doing what you should with your life, on not saying yes and not being bold. And it's so interesting in the way it handles death and the way it handles a real life situation with Kevin Smith's heart attack, and the way, I'm not going to give anything away, this are all non-spoilers, but it's so bittersweet. It's so dark. It's so hilarious and self-aware, and the way it reflects back on the other View Askew films, and the way it ties into that web that Kevin does so well, while also being maybe his most heartfelt film. It's the punk rock sensibilities of Clerks with the aggressive sentimentality of Reboot. It is the greatest hits of Kevin Smith. If it wasn't for Mallrats literally shaping my life, this would be my number 1 Kevin Smith film, but Clerks 3 is now my number 2 Kevin Smith film, if only because Mallrats shaped my life. This movie is so special, so impactful. I saw it with my whole family. We all had such unique and powerful experiences with it. It's such a rumination and meditation on life and death, and it's so much exposed soul of Kevin Smith, and it's so good. My number 4 of 2022 is the movie I've talked about maybe most because it's the one I want to get most butts in seats. It is the Banshees of Inisherin. Now, this Banshees of Inisherin, there's a lot of ways to say it. I've never mastered it. They say it in the movie, and I've failed Ireland. This movie is maybe the most me comedy since In Bruges. In Bruges is Martin McDonagh's masterpiece that I think has not been topped. In Bruges and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang are my number 1 and number 2, and alternate. Those are tied at number 1 comedies of all time. Banshees is up there. This is more of a drama with comedic elements. It's so funny, though. I don't even know how to classify this film. There are themes in here about loneliness and about friendship and about what it means to be innocent and what it means to be dumb versus clever, what it means to leave a legacy, what it means to be alone. Like, there's so much of how I feel in this film, but articulated in ways that I can't fathom. The writing is so tight. The performances are masterful. Barry Keoghan, whenever he's on screen, is such a powerhouse. I want this guy to get every Oscar, every award this year, and that's with Kerry Condon, Brendan Gleeson, Colin Farrell. Like, everyone in this film deserves every accolade. I don't want Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell to have to compete for Best Actor because that'll split the vote and then they won't win, but like, they both should. And then Barry should definitely get supporting, and Carrie should definitely get supporting actress. Like, these performances, everyone in this is incredible. And like, the ruminations on loneliness, we don't talk about friendship breakups unless it's a comedy, like a bro comedy. We don't talk about what loneliness feels like. We don't talk about where our time goes, and conversations about that aren't usually this honest. And then there's things to an 11. It goes in extremely dark places with finger cutting and violence and blood, and all of that in very Irish sensibility, to the point where like some of these people are saying things that I haven't heard since I was either in Ireland or in my youth. I'm very Irish, and like, feckin' is a piece of like my young culture, and poaching is literally my favorite booze, and I've never thought it'd be in a movie. There's so much culture and impact, and I could literally do a 40-minute review of this movie, and maybe I will, because this is the movie I want the people to see the most. My number 1 is an indie, but it's gotten a lot of cult following. My number 2 and 3 are big blockbusters that don't need my help. Kevin toured with my number 5, but I feel like Banshees of Inisherin is the movie I want people to see the most, and it would be my number 1 any other year, but I really, if you listen to me at all, it's on HBO Max right now as of filming. Banshees is so important to me, and if you don't watch all these movies, leave a comment below what you think of Banshees. I loved it. My number 3 is a movie I've waited my whole life for, I feel like, because since I was 11, my favorite director has been David Fincher, and since I was a kid, my 2 favorite superheroes have been Spider-Man and Batman. They've rumored to have been talks of Spider-Man being directed by David Fincher. I don't know how close that ever came, but as a kid, I always dreamed of a David Fincher comic book film, and The Batman gave me the closest I think I'll ever get to that. Matt Reeves gave us a detective Batman in a ponderous noir that feels so real and tangible, and it made a world feel like you could visit Gotham. Like, that feels like today. Like, the villain in this film is things that we experience in real life, and there are multiple villains in this film, and Batman is such an archetypal character that he has so many opposites, right? Like, I love Batman because he represents all of us, not the money, but like he represents vengeance and passion and compulsion and striving for something so hard, but he's also so many things. He's a detective, he's a warrior, he's someone that's trained with ninjas, he's someone that's hyper intelligent, he's a lover, so all these things can have opposites, right? Like the opposite of the detective side of Batman is the Riddler. The opposite of the good and evil pure justice side of Batman is Two-Face. The opposite of the controlled, having rules, is Joker. The opposite of his love for Gotham is Mr. Freeze's love for Nora. Like, there's so many opposites. And his love of family is what spawns all these Robins. And they've planted this flag in the sand with this new Gotham to such a level that we're getting a show, maybe 2, we're getting more movies, and it's all its own thing, which is why I'm so happy that it seems like they're keeping Batman separate from the Justice League world they're building. To me, it's the perfect Batman film. To me, it's everything I've wanted from a Batman film. To me, it is what a blockbuster can be and a comic movie can be, and it trusted the audience to be patient and live in the painting that is this film. You breathe this film in. You experience this film. You lean back and gaze upon Gotham. It is everything I want from Batman. Pattinson crushed it. Matt Reeves crushed it. Paul Dano crushed it. Zoe Kravitz did the impossible and made a new Catwoman after Michelle Pfeiffer, and credit where credit is due. Anne Hathaway fit that world perfectly. It's so hard after all these people have played Batman to make a new Batman, and this movie is so fucking good. I loved The Batman. It's my number 3. Again, any other year could have been number 1. My number 2 of the year is the movie that reminded people worldwide what the movie theater is. Now, we might have Nicole Kidman in the theater reminding us what the theater is, but we have Tom Cruise in Top Gun Maverick reminding us what a summer blockbuster can be. Top Gun Maverick made all that money because we don't get to have this feeling as much anymore. We don't get to feel this classic blend of nostalgia and newness. This nostalgia has been tapped a lot, but it hasn't felt like this, at least to me. We've had so many movies look at Stranger Things. That's a masterpiece of nostalgia because it's able to tap into the 80s while being new. This did that in 2 hours, and it gave us a movie that I grew up with. Top Gun's one of my favorite films of all time. I watch it constantly, and I grew up with it. And they continued that story in a way that feels fresh, while also being in honor of the old one. It feels like Tony Scott directed it, even though he didn't. It feels like any of these characters could have been planted for Top Gun 2 all those years ago. Everyone in it's incredible. I love Hangman. I'd watch that movie. I love what Miles Teller did. I'd watch that movie. I love the legacy tying to Goose. I love, my God, it taught us that Jennifer Connelly is what love can be, the relationship there. Tom Cruise is the movie star. We've known that. Mission Impossible, all of his franchises, but this is Tom Cruise at his Tom Cruisiest. He is cruising forth, and I think they reinvented action. Like what they were able to do with practical effects, what they're able to do by trusting Tom Cruise to be as crazy but controlled and powerful as he is. This movie is only possible because Tom Cruise and because of technology in 2021 when they made it to come out in 2020 when they made it to come out in 2022. Glenn Powell's the next big movie star. There's so much right here. And I would watch a spinoff with any of those aviators, and I would watch this movie weekly. It is the blockbuster to get us back in the theater, and it's everything I wanted and more. Top Gun Maverick, thank you for bringing back the movies. My number 1 movie of 2022 is a rare 5-star film. In the history of movies, I've given, I think, 19 films 5 stars. This is one of them. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, I consider as perfect as possible. Nothing is perfect. To me, this is close. My experience with it is close. It is existential. It is introspection-inducing. It is unique. It is world-building at its finest. It is masterfully edited, acted, shot. It is what I love about The Matrix mixed with what I love about comedies, mixed with new actors that I wasn't as invested in, that now I will see everything they do. It is a reimagining of what it is to be alive times 100. Every frame is captivating. Every moment makes you think about your life while not distracting you from the life you're living through this film. It is something that makes you want to be better. It is quotable. In another world, I would have loved to have just done taxes with you is one of the great love lines of the modern cinema experience. That is, like, I'm quoting it, paraphrasing it. I don't know if that's the exact quote, but it makes you believe in love and movies. It is so unique, and it's so wacky and wonky and big. It's why I love movies. It's also something that I think is unique to this medium. This, I don't know if I could read something and have this experience because the editing is such a part of it. I don't know if I'd feel the connection to these characters because the actors are such a part of it. I don't know if those rapid frames flying at me to feel so like overwhelmed in the stimuli would feel the same in a poem or a TV show. It is the power of movies that make my top two work. I love everything about it. I love everywhere about it, and I love that it happens to me all at once. I want to show this movie to everyone ever, and I want to share in the world of it all the time, and it made me want to be a better person. It made me want to experience life in the moment. It made me want to be present while being everywhere. There's no words for Everything Everywhere All at Once except for the experience that you get while watching it. And it changed me, and that feels really good to have a movie change you. So that is my number one of 2022. It is one of only like 20 films I've ever felt was 5 stars. It's something that I would change nothing about, and this year was an incredible year in movies. Any other year, Top Gun Maverick could have been number one. Any other year, The Batman could have been. Banshees of Inisherin could have been. Clerks 3 could have been. But this year, Everything Everywhere All at Once came out, and this year I was changed. So let me know in the comments what you enjoyed the most this year. What are your 1 through 10? What are your 1 through 23? Check out part 2, which is 11 through 23. It's weird if you came in this order, but there's a lot of good stuff over there. There are some movies I didn't get this year, but I did watch 190, so I got, I think, a good grasp of what my 2022 would have been no matter what. I'm trying to grow this channel. Please do like and subscribe and comment and share. If this reaches a decent amount, I'm going to do my top TV shows of 2022. I'm trying to edit more. I'm trying to make a little more production value. Got a microphone thanks to Real Rejects. I'm trying to up the quality of this YouTube. So if you enjoyed this, please do share, comment, hit that subscription bell. Let me know what you want to see from me in 2023. Let me know. I'm doing mainly comic stuff on this page. I'm trying to grow that out. Let me know what videos you want. Analysis, Easter eggs, comic books, movies, TV shows. What do you want to hear? Music. Let me know what you want to hear about. Thank you all so very much. I hope you had an incredible 2022. Here's to 2023. So much love to each and every one of you. I'll see you soon.